All right, so today I want to talk about an article out of the Calgary Herald, and it's titled Survey Suggests Pandemic Has Dealt Serious Financial Blow to Many Albertans. And it starts by saying Albertans are feeling a lot of financial pain as a result of the pandemic and associated job losses, according to a survey released Tuesday. The MNP Consumer Debt Index's latest numbers show one quarter of Albertans are technically insolvent. The number has been creeping up since the start of the pandemic, which caused many people to temporarily or permanently lose their jobs. In June, it was 20%. Now, as the government emergency aid programs and deferrals wind down, an increasing number of Albertans are facing tough decisions about how to pay their bills and other debt obligations. Our results have put a spotlight on the divergent experiences of Albertans during, Sandra Landry, a licensed insolvency trustee with the Alberta-based MNP Ltd., said in a news release. Those who have lost employment or wages continue to struggle with financial uncertainty and not knowing whether their job will still be around after the pandemic. 4 in 10 Albertans say they're $200 or less away from being insolvent at month end. Almost half of Albertans, 46%, say they're worried about their current level of debt. That number is down slightly from June when it was 48. Just over half of Albertans, 51%, say they regret the amount of debt they've taken on. The number is up 6 percentage points since June. Landry said there are solutions for people who feel they're in over their head when it comes to debt. Budgeting, refinancing, consolidating debt, and credit counseling can all help, and may help many people avoid bankruptcy, which can also be an appropriate option in certain situations. The MNP Consumer Debt Index is conducted by Ipsos, updated quarterly. The survey sampled 2001 Canadians age 18 and over and is accurate, plus or minus 2.5 percentage points 95% of the time. Another survey of 1,000 shoppers conducted by PwC Canada found that Canadians will spend on average nearly $500 less this Christmas than last. It found 86% will spend the same or less this year on Christmas, and 57% say the pandemic has had a negative or slightly negative effect on how much they plan to spend. The survey also looked at shopping habits and unsurprisingly found more people plan to use online shopping and curbside pickup. Of those who say they were planning on doing 3/4 of their shopping in stores, 60% say they were 55 or older. BDO Canada's affordability index suggests that affordability gap in Canada is rising, and that's leading to greater economic disparity. In Alberta, 48% of respondents say they are worse off due to the pandemic. The national average was 39%. Alberta and Saskatchewan tied nationally for the most people, 30% who said they were saving less but then before the pandemic. One quarter of Albertans say they're saving more, while 1/5 say they aren't saving at all. Not everyone is feeling this pain, according to BDO. Across Canada, 18% of respondents said their personal finances have improved since the pandemic started. 18%, that's a pretty small number. That's pretty small. The affordability index was done in partnership with Angus Reid Global. It surveyed 2,047 random Canadians who are members of the Angus Reid platform. A probability sample of this side would carry a margin error of 2.2 percentage points 95% of the time. So, what does this mean? I mean, it means a lot of things. I mean, the first thing being is that a lot of people are in debt or aren't saving money because they're terrible with money, like terrible with money. The amount of things that I see people the amount of things that I see people spend money on that are so stupid, it's not even fun. Like, I mean, I've lived with a lot of people, so I think I have a pretty good understanding of this. Um, Everybody who I've lived with could easily save 100, $200 a month, no problem, if they made slight changes to their habits, right? Like the first and obvious one being is, how many people do you know who own pets, right? How many people do you know who own pets? Well, here's the thing. You're spending 20 bucks a month on food. How much more money are you spending having to clean up after them? How much did it cost to buy them in the first place? How much does it cost to, if you have to take them into the vet or something? So again, that's just a quick example I see of people that, do you really need that? Like, do you want to have no money? Here's the thing. $100 a month over, if you were to save that money over, let's say 30, 40 years, that's at least $250,000. Like, when you put it that way, people say, oh, it's only $100 a month. What difference does it make? Well, that's at least at least $250,000 over 30 or 40 years, probably upwards of $500,000 if you invest that wisely, or at the very least if you use that wisely. So that's the first thing I bring up. But the other thing to bring up too is, and the more important thing I think, is that a lot of people legitimately are struggling right now. Like the vast majority of people are legitimately struggling. And here's the reasons why. Well, it's very simple. The governments, across Canada have committed to doubling down on these stupid, insane lockdown measures. We should not have the vast majority of these things. The world should be pretty much back to normal right now. And here's the thing that bothers me beyond everything else. In Alberta, and in the states as well, I mean, take the example. You had Biden, who on one hand he's criticizing Trump for the economy not being very good right now, but on the other hand he also thinks that there should be a nationwide lockdown, right? Or at the very least mask mandates, right? So on one hand they want to shut down the economy, but on the other hand they want to complain about the economy. It's the same thing in Alberta. Like you have all these idiotic NDP supporters who will say, "Oh, we should have, province-wide mask mandates and we should have more lockdown measures." But on the other hand, they're like, "Oh, Alberta's the worst province. We have such high unemployment rate. Oh, the UCP are such crazy people. They're cutting all our jobs." Well, yeah, because we have no money. If nobody's paying taxes, we can't have this big, massive, you know, government, all these big, massive government programs that the left wants. Like these people are so ignorant, so stupid. And again, I don't mean to be mean to people, but we're beyond the point of being able to be nice, right? We're past that point. I'd like to be nice to people, but you can't anymore, right? It's affecting me too much personally. It's affecting too many other people personally to be nice anymore. So these people support policies that put people out of work, or at the very least less work, which means less money. And then they complain, "Oh, people are out of work, they're suffering." But the government doesn't have any money. The government's getting less money in taxes because nobody's working. If you're not working, you're not paying taxes, which means the government can't give people services. The amount of services we were giving out prior to the pandemic was already unsustainable. You think it's sustainable now? How insane do you have to, like, do you not understand, like, grade 2 levels of math? Like, we were already spending a lot more money than we were bringing in. You think doing that more? Yeah, I'm someone who makes $50,000 a year. I'm spending 60. Oh, what's your solution to get out of that hole? Oh, it's spend 70. Like, how insane do you have to be to actually suggest that? But again, most people on the left, that's exactly what they're suggesting. Let's raise taxes. Let's go into more debt. That's what their solution is, right? We're not bringing in enough tax revenue. Let's raise taxes, right? Like, the current level. It's the same stuff like you see in New York and California, right? Like rich people are and not to mention to even middle class people are leaving these states in droves. What's the solution? Let's raise taxes. Let's do more of what screwed us over in the first place. And this is what bothers me so much, is that the solution to getting out of this, I mean, here's the problem too. Like asking someone, "Well, what's your solution to getting out of this?" It's like asking a nutritionist, you're having a heart attack and calling a nutritionist, right? That's the equivalent to what it is right now. So it's beyond a loaded question, because this, like, I've been talking about this since April, May especially. We should have been open since May. So everything should be back to normal right now, but it isn't, because paranoia, pretty much just one. You can describe one word why we're not back to normal. It's paranoia. Paranoia, paranoia, paranoia. And that's what the big problem is. And here's the thing, like I mentioned a million times before, the entirety of government's focus, like 90%, because obviously you have to be worried about other stuff as well, should be to how can we grow the economy. And by grow the economy, I don't mean print money, because technically, yeah, that does grow money, but that doesn't that would be the equivalent to an individual being like, "Yeah, I'm going to max out my credit cards and it's going to increase my quality of life." Well, yeah, it technically is, but down the road it's going to make it worse. So how can we grow the economy without just printing money? That should be almost the entirety of government's focus right now, but it isn't, because I don't at the end of the day, I don't think they care all that much. And here's the thing, it's like I mentioned a million times as well also, that we shouldn't be taking the advice of any of these government figures, anybody who works for the government. If they don't stand to lose out both financially and personally, but at the very least financially, for making poor decisions, we shouldn't be taking advice from them, and they shouldn't have any power. They shouldn't have any power. Like looking back on things, if the government's going to implement mask mandates, if they don't reduce the cases, they get a 10% pay cut, right? And not to mention, too, the people that are enforcing that, they lose their jobs. Because if you're going to implement these kind of policies, you need to be damn sure that they're going to be effective. If you're going to close down businesses, you better be damn sure it's going to reduce the cases. Now, none of those things happen, but are any of these government figures losing their jobs, or any of them getting a pay cut? No, none of them are. None of them. If anything, they're getting pay raises, right? If anything, they're getting pay raises. So again, this is the problem too. Like, you have all these people that are defending this too. Like, how do you defend these people? Like, how do you defend these people? The average citizens out here suffering. The governments, they're doing as good as they've ever been. They're doing as good as they've ever been. And that's just the other thing I don't understand. So again, in a nutshell, what the solution to this is, like I say, it's like asking a nutritionist on, I'm having a heart attack, what do I do, Mr. Nutritionist? That's pretty much the equivalent, because we're already beyond the point. But like I said, the solution, I think the solution right now would be to cut regulations, cut taxes. But on the flip side, we can't be running deficits, right? Like, we can't be running deficits. At the very least, regulations need to be cut. We need to make it as easy as possible for businesses to operate right now. We need the overhead and the amount of regulations they need to comply with to be as low as, not to mention, too, we're banning plastics, too. So that's just another body blow on top of the million body blows they've already faced. So again, like, Canada's in a world of hurt, like a world of hurt. And the biggest problem too is that the vast majority of people just don't care. They just don't care. And if they do care, their solution to it's more of the same. It's, oh, we're not printing enough money, right? Well, we don't have enough regulations. Like, it's just pure and utter insanity. So again, like I say, in a nutshell, the solution to this is cut regulations, absolutely. The government needs to cut spending. They have to cut spending, specifically their own pay too. Like, I think every single person who's gone along with the any of these mask mandates or lockdown measures, every single person who works for the government that has supported these measures, I mean, honestly, I think that they should lose their jobs. Personally, I think they should lose their jobs, but that's probably not going to happen. At the very least, they need a pay cut. They need a pay cut. Maybe they lose part of their pension. I don't know what they should lose, but they should be losing out, because most people are losing out. I mean, look at how many people it said, 50% of people. But that's not going to happen. And this is the reason why the way we run things is never going to work out. It's never going to work out, because the people that run things almost never suffer when the average everyday citizen suffers. Almost never. Almost never. And that's the big problem, that these people have no incentive to do the right thing. So anyway, I've been talking about quite a bit, so I'm going to leave it there. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, also BitChute and Parler. All those links are in the description, so you can find them all there.